Hey friend, Colin here from Sumthins Recording, and today I'm going to show you 5 steps for mixing vocals to easily sit right on top of the mix. I'm going to start by playing you the finished vocal inside the mix here, and then I'll solo it up as well so you can hear our finished vocal tone in isolation before we dive into these tips. So here's our vocal inside the finished mix.
If you'll be my bodyguard, I can be your long lost pal. I can call you Betty, and Betty, when you call me, you can call me out. Call me. If you'll be my bodyguard, I can be your long lost pal. I can call you Betty, and Betty, when you call me, you can call me out. Call me if you'll be my bodyguard.
So you can hear our vocal cuts through a lot of stuff here. It's a very big song in the choruses, lots of keys, lots of horns here, guitar, bass, drums, percussion, lots of big background vocals. It has a lot of stuff to compete with, but it still sits right on top of the mix here. Let me take off all the processing and show you the raw vocal by itself. So here's just the raw recorded vocal for this song.
If you'll be my bodyguard, I can be your long lost pal. I can call you Betty, and Betty, when you call me, you can call me out. Call me if you'll be my bodyguard, I can be your long lost pal.
You can hear there's not a drastic change in overall volume when we put all the processing in, but it's a lot tighter. It has a lot more energy and punch to it. It's brighter. It has all of the qualities we need in a lead vocal for it to sit on top of the mix. I'm going to show you how we did this in just 5 steps. So looking at the first EQ here, step number 1 is always for me getting rid of anything we don't need in the vocal. And primarily that means rolling off excess bottom end and excess low end. On a vocal, there's usually not much we need below about 100 hertz. And for me, I'm usually rolling up to about 150 and sometimes 200 hertz depending on the vocal. I've got the high pass at 182 hertz here. I'm rolling off all of the excess bottom end that we don't need, so getting rid of any plosives, any big breaths, any air going on in the room, any of that stuff that we don't need, rolling it off there on the bottom end to tighten up the overall frequency range and sound of our vocal here. So take a listen without the high pass, and then I'll kick it in. 12 dB per octave slope at 182 hertz.
If you'll be my bodyguard, I can be your long lost pal. I can call you Betty, and Betty, when you call me, you can call me out. Call me if you'll be my bodyguard, I can be your long lost pal. I can call you Betty, and Betty, when you call me.
You can hear just this one move really tightens up the tone of our vocal overall. There's a ton of stuff going on down here, especially because of the lyrics for this song. So like, I can call you Betty, that kind of stuff. B's, P's are going to create tons of energy in the sub area that we don't need coming through on our vocal. So rolling that off saves us a ton of energy and really moves it more towards the focus point in the frequency range for our vocal. So that is the first step. If there's anything else that's bothering you in the vocal, this is where you want to take care of it. If there's stuff in the low mids that you want to get rid of, if there's anything in the mid range that's kind of honky or nasally, you want to boost up here, find it, and then take it out. So that's step number 1. We want to get rid of any information that we don't need in our vocal. Now, step number 2 is where we're going to pull in our compressor. I know there's this nice big boost up in the top end, but we'll get to that. Step number 2 is using a compressor to add evenness, consistency, and energy to our vocal. I like using this 1176 style compressor on vocals because it does a great job of adding energy to the vocal. For me, it pulls out a lot of character and personality from the performance that the artist gives. So I've got the attack set at 0.55 milliseconds. So really fast. It's a medium slow attack for this unit, but overall it's a super fast attack. So getting everything right away. And then the release is all the way fast on this unit at 50 milliseconds. 4-to-1 ratio, so it's the gentlest for this unit, but it's still a good ratio that we're going to get some of those peaks and pull them down to even out the vocal volume overall. So we're trying to save some dynamic range here, squeeze things down, and make sure we can park our vocal where we want it. We're going to be doing a ton of compression, but don't let that scare you. We want to get our vocal even and consistent so we can park it on top of the mix here. So without our compressor, and then I'll kick it in on the second half here.
If you'll be my bodyguard, I can be your long lost pal. I can call you Betty, and Betty, when you call me, you can call me out. Call me. If you'll be my bodyguard, I can be your long lost pal.
So if I move this over, watch the meter here on the bus and on the vocal. When I flip the compressor on, it keeps our vocal in one spot. So we can literally use this volume fader now to park the vocal right where we want it on top of the track. So before, without our compressor, we can move that volume fader, but our vocal's still dynamic enough that it's going to move up and down volume-wise inside the mix. We get it compressed, 7 to 10 dB reduction. It feels like a lot of compression, but with something like this, it adds energy, it adds character, and it keeps our vocal in one spot so we can get it to sit on top of the mix. So watch the volume meter here on the vocals. I flip the compressor in.
If you'll be my bodyguard, I can be your long lost pal. I can call you Betty, and Betty, when you call me, you can call me out. Call me.
Keeps our vocal in one spot, and that's what we want to do. So this is step number 2. We want to use compression to get our vocal even volume-wise. It evens out the tone a little bit as well. You can see we did this big cut in the bottom end, and this can be scary rolling the high-pass filter up this much. But when you use a compressor and you do this much compression, you get some of that low-mid area back. So that's something to keep in mind as you do your preliminary EQ before compression. So step number 1, getting rid of what we don't need frequency-wise. And step number 2 is we're using our compressor to get our vocal even and add some energy to it as well. Now, step number 3 is where I want to go back to EQ and I want to add things to the vocal. So for me, it's usually adding air on the top end and sometimes adding a little bit of bottom if the vocal needs it as well, usually at the end of the chain. You can see I got an EQ at the end of the chain here. But we're going to go back to this first EQ to start, and I'm going to add 7.2 dB at 8K. This is going to give a ton of brightness to the vocal. It's going to wake it up, make sure it cuts through all these horns and keyboards going on, and it's going to give the vocal some air as well, which is what we want to hear in more modern music here today, is that nice air on top of the vocal. So I'm going to hit play, and I'll kick this boost in at 8K.
If you'll be my bodyguard, I can be your long lost pal. I can call you Betty, and Betty, when you call me, you can call me out. Call me. If you'll be my bodyguard, I can be your long lost pal. Call you Betty, and Betty, when you call me, you can call me out.
Adds a ton of brightness to our vocal. That's going to sit really, really nicely inside the mix. It brings up some things that are a little bit harsh and pokey, but we're going to take care of that in a later step. Just adding what we need to the vocal to start here on our EQ section. There is one more boost here that I'm going to add. At the end of the chain is where I like to boost bottom end. I don't want to push bottom end into compression and mess up the compression we already did. Top end, I will gladly boost into compression because it's going to hold that in place. Bottom end typically has more energy, so it's going to push the compressor way harder than top end is. So I like to boost bottom end at the end of the chain, and I'd rather boost more consistent bottom end as well. So once the vocal's even and shaped, then I'll go boost bottom end. So my bottom end boost here is at the very, very end of the chain. We're only adding 1.5 dB at about 140 hertz. So adding a little bit of weight to our vocal here. Here's without it and then with.
If you'll be my bodyguard, I can be your long lost pal. I can call you Betty, and Betty, when you call me, you can call me out. Call me. If you'll be my bodyguard, I can be your long lost pal.
It's only 1.5 dB, but it adds a lot of fullness to the vocal, which makes sure that when we park it inside the track, it doesn't get eaten up or overshadowed by things that are in the bottom end, like the bottom end of the keys or the higher piece of the bass guitar here in the low mids. It makes sure our vocal has a ton of energy, full range in the center of the mix here. It makes it feel powerful so we can park it on top of the mix. So that's step 3, is we're adding things on this track here, air in the top end, and then a little bit of weight at the end of the chain. Step number 4 is we're going to go back now. When I did that top end boost, we added a little bit of harshness to the vocal, and it brought up some sibilance range. So we want to take care of that. So step number 4 is going to be taking care of harshness and sibilance in the vocal. First thing we're going to take care of is that sibilance range. I like to use a multiband for this. I feel like I get more control out of a multiband than a de-esser, but there is a de-esser here inside of Studio One as well. I'm just using a multiband compressor, and we're only looking at 4K and above here on the top band. I've got the ratio all the way up, so it's pretty much acting like a limiter on the top end of the vocal. Fast attack, fast release, and I'm just pulling the threshold down here till we're bringing that sibilance range, those S's, those T's, in line and making them feel more natural with the vocal. So here's without it. You can see our gain reduction on the meter over here. I'll kick it in halfway through our vocal phrase.
If you'll be my bodyguard, I can be your long lost pal. I can call you Betty, and Betty, when you call me, you can call me out. Call me. If you'll be my bodyguard, I can be your long lost pal.
Actually not doing a ton of work here on the vocal, but I like to pull this top band down until it's kind of sitting right above where the top end is hovering. That way any S's or T's that do jump up, they'll get caught by that band. Not squashing the top end, just making sure that sibilance range feels natural. So just pulling it down, that any excess T's or S's will get caught by that. The other thing I like to do in this step to take care of any harshness is I like to pull in soothe. I used to do this kind of thing manually at the end of the chain. On this EQ where I have the bottom end boost, I would come in here in the top end and make a really, really narrow band and search for any harsh frequencies and notch them out this way. You can do that. It works very, very well, but it's much more time consuming than just pulling in something like Soothe or the Waves plugin that will do this for you as well. I like to look at the 2K to 8K range, and sometimes if it's a higher vocal and there's a lot of stuff going on in the super top end, I'll pull this top band all the way out so it's looking at 2K and above. I have the sharpness all the way up, so working the same way I would if I was just using a normal EQ. I want that Q as sharp as possible. I have the selectivity kind of in the middle here. That's something you can mess with as well. But I just pull the depth up here on Soothe till it's pulling anything that's harsh down by about -12 dB here. And if it's still giving me problems, I'll pull it down further. I'll pull the depth up there. Fast attack, fast release. We want it getting in as quick as possible to get those harsh frequencies out and then leaving the rest of the vocal alone. So getting in and getting out as fast as possible. I'll hit play and I'll kick this in. You can see what it's doing and hear what it's doing to our vocal.
If you'll be my bodyguard, I can be your long lost pal. If you'll be my bodyguard, I can be your long lost pal. If you'll be my bodyguard, I can be your long lost pal.
So all those ringing frequencies, all those pokey frequencies in the high mids of the vocal are completely gone. It really smooths out the vocal, so we can push this up volume-wise and make sure it sits on top of the track. If you don't do this step here, if you don't do step 4, and you don't take care of the sibilance, and you don't take care of pokey frequencies in your vocal, you will not get it to sit on top of your mix without it being harsh and extremely pokey for the listener. You can set your vocal where you want it loudness-wise, but if it has all these harsh frequencies in it and the sibilance range is out of control, your listener is going to skip right past your track because it's going to be harmful for their ears. You want to take care of this stuff so you can cook your vocal up volume-wise and get it sitting right on top of the mix, and it's going to be smooth and easy listening for your audience. So that's step 4 there. Step 5, our final step here, is adding depth with effects to our vocal. There's 3 effects that I like to add on lead vocals these days. It's a slap delay, a plate reverb, and then a stereo quarter note delay, a DDL, so a dynamic delay. The first one's the slap delay. I'll turn that on and we'll scroll over. You can see what this is. So this is just a short slap delay, kind of losing out there with the video software. It's a 100 millisecond slap delay, no feedback or anything like that, but I'm using the onboard high cut and low cut filters of this delay. So nothing below 300 hertz and nothing above 3K. So just the mid-range on the vocal here. And this delay actually has a drive on it too. So it's a distorted slap delay. Let me solo that up for you. Here's just our slap delay.
If you'll be my bodyguard, I can be your long lost pal.
Background vocals are sending into it as well. So you heard a little bit of those. Just a distorted slap. Tucked very, very low in the mix on this song because it's a bit drier on the vocal slap delay wise. I leaned more on the reverb for this track. But this is something you can pull up to add extra weight and grit to your vocal. So if it's a bigger rock track or a heavier track, you can lean more on this distorted slap delay to give your vocal some extra energy and oomph inside the mix. The next thing I've got going here is the Lexicon plate reverb. This is actually an impulse response of the Lexicon 480 plate. It's just the A plate from that unit. So it's a 2-second reverb with a 151.5 millisecond pre-delay. All this does is it gives me that 2-second reverb, but using that pre-delay, it pushes the reverb out past the vocal. So they're not sitting right on top of each other. You hear the vocal, and then you hear the reverb immediately following it. So they're not sitting on top of each other. They're not fighting each other. It's not cloudying up or muddying up our lead vocal. This way we can add as much weight to the vocal as we want without our reverb really crushing the low mids on the vocal. And then I'm rolling off everything below 300 and everything above 10K, so it doesn't get too washy up top and it doesn't get too muddy in the low mids. Here's what that reverb sounds like on the vocal.
If you'll be my bodyguard, I can be your long lost pal. I can call you Betty, and Betty, when you call me, you can call.
Same thing, the background vocals are sending into that as well. So just briefly a look here. All of these vocals, the lead and then the harmony vocals, are all bused to the lead vocal bus, which is where all of the effects are. Last but not least, I have this stereo quarter note delay with a compressor on it. So I've turned it into a dynamic delay. And I'm using the splitter inside of Studio One. So I've got a channel split here. So I have access to the left and right. I have a quarter note delay on the left that's down by 10 milliseconds. So the quarter note for this song is 468 milliseconds. So on the left, I have 458 milliseconds. And then on the right side, I have 478 milliseconds. So splitting them off by 10 milliseconds on each side turns it from mono to a stereo quarter note delay. I've got the same low cut and high cut going on that I did on the slap delay, but no distortion this time and a little bit of feedback. So you hear that kind of going off into the distance. 100% on the dry wet knob. But at the end of this chain, after both of the delays, I have a compressor that's side chaining from the lead vocal. So what this does when the lead vocal is going, this delay, the stereo delay, can get kind of crazy and kind of washy, is pulled down by about 6 or 7 dB in the track. And then when the vocal stops, it opens up and the delay comes in to fill these cracks. This keeps it from getting too messy and too cloudy inside the track because we've got a slap delay, we've got a reverb, and now a stereo quarter note delay going. We want to add depth, but we don't want to muddy up the vocal. So side chaining the delay here with the lead vocal, make sure that when our vocal's going, we hear our vocal, it's our focal point. When the vocal stops, our delay kind of comes in to fill in the gaps. It's that little bit of ear candy without muddying up the vocal. So let me solo this up. You can hear what's going on there, and I'll keep the compressor open as well. You can see what it's doing.
If you'll be my bodyguard, I can be your long lost pal. I can call you Betty, and Betty, when you call me, you can call me out. Call me if you'll be my bodyguard.
You can hear it keeps our delay low while the vocal's going, and then at the end of lines, you can hear the delay come up, fills in the gaps, gives us that little bit of ear candy. So let me put all of these effects in here. You can hear them on the vocal, and then I'll throw the vocal back inside the track. So here's just our lead vocal going here with the effects on it.
If you'll be my bodyguard, I can be your long lost pal. I can call you Betty, and Betty, when you call me, you can call me out. Call me if you'll be my bodyguard, I can be your long lost pal. I can call you Betty, and Betty, when you call me, you can call me out. Call me if you'll be my bodyguard. Betty, when you call me, you can call me out. Call me if.
So 5 steps to get our vocals sitting on top of the mix. Step number 1 is getting rid of information we don't need. So rolling off excess bottom end. If we need to, trimming out a little bit of the low mid area. Step number 2, pulling in our compressor, doing about 7 to 10 dB reduction on the vocal to get it even, add some energy to the vocal. Step number 3 is we're coming back to our EQ, adding some top end air to make sure our vocal is bright enough that it competes in the track, and then a touch of bottom end boost here so it has some fullness and weight to it. Step number 4 is we're controlling harshness and sibilance in the vocal. So we've got our de-esser here taking care of everything above 4K. And then I'm using Soothe here to target those harsh high mids between 2K and 8K. And then last but not least, adding depth to our vocal, step number 5, with effects. I've got a slap delay, a stereo plate reverb, and a stereo dynamic delay that adds some depth to our vocal so it sits in and on top of our mix. I hope that was helpful for you if you are looking to go a little bit deeper into the mixing process in its entirety and really start to hone your workflow as an audio engineer. Then I have just the tool for you, and it is completely free. It is my 7-step mixing checklist, and it's just a simple PDF guide that will walk you through the entire mixing process step by step to help you get professional and radio-ready mixes without any more of the hassle or any more of the guesswork. Completely free guide for you, and you can get access to that by clicking the link below in the video description. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.